afternoon. My name is Linda Johnson. I am the host of Pink Perspectives powered by the Pink Table Talk. And today I have joining with me Linda Hansen. Thank you for your availability today to discuss your journey as a breast cancer survivor and how you volunteer throughout the community.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you. I was diagnosed de novo with metastatic breast cancer almost 12 years ago. So I'm always happy to share because I just might be able to help somebody. I am a retired patent lawyer and I'm the mother of 3 wonderful girls. And now that I'm retired, I spend a lot of my time volunteering for nonprofits involved in breast cancer.
I appreciate that. So just a little bit of a backstory of how Linda and I came to know one another and why I felt that it was important for her to be able to share our story is that we both sit on the policy committee through the Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition, where we deal with a lot of information behind the scenes regarding the legislation. And as Linda mentioned, the Metastatic Breast Cancer Access to Care Act, and some of the other things that are on the docket for your state legislators. So a lot of those things come to light when we have to be able to talk about how we can get laws passed in order to help us as we are patients or advocates or caregivers in our fight against breast cancer. Linda, if you could just share a little bit of your story in regards to 12 years ago and what it felt like as you heard those words that you were diagnosed.
Sure. 12 years ago, I was training for a short sprint distance triathlon with a friend. Mm-hmm. Our goal was sometime before we got too old to be able to do it, we were going to enter one and finish it. Our goal was upright under our own power. Don't get too impressed. We called the part at the end the walk. Okay. So it put it into perspective. And I went out running one morning, and it was the very first and became the very last time I ever got up early to go running before work. Mm. And every time my right leg hit the ground, I had a strange pain in my right breast. And I kept thinking, I don't know what this could be. I just had a mammogram 5 weeks ago and it came back clear. Wow. So I can't figure out what this is. And I got home and noticed that when I raised my arm, a dent appeared in my right breast. Hmm. So I called my doctor who had me come in, and he agreed with me that there was something funny. It didn't feel like a lump as much, but there was something funny going on, and sent me to see someone. And she ordered an MRI, and when it was put up, you didn't have to be a doctor to know there was something bad going on. Wow. And I said, I know it can't be breast cancer because I just had a clear mammogram, but what could this be? And she looked at me and she said, I can't be certain until I biopsy it, but you've got breast cancer.
Oh my gosh.
I was stunned. I was in disbelief. And I wanted to know, how can I have breast cancer? I just had this clean mammogram. That tumor looks big. And she said, well, you've probably got dense breasts. And I remembered seeing that somewhere in my medical records. And so I asked the breast surgeon about that and found out that if you have dense breasts, a mammogram may not be able to diagnose cancer in you. It may completely miss it because dense breast tissue shows up as white, kind of like a snowstorm on a mammogram. Mm-hmm. And cancer shows up as white on a mammogram. And so the doctors are essentially looking for a snowball in a snowstorm. You just can't see it.
Exactly.
So I've been going for mammograms all those years, every year, like clockwork, and it didn't make any difference. And the thing that I think is interesting is almost half of all women over the age of 40 have dense breast tissue. So from the time they start telling us to get our mammograms may not be able to tell us anything. Fortunately, in Wisconsin, one of the members of the WBCC policy group that you and I are part of worked with our state legislature to get the law changed in Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin now, doctors have to explain to women who have dense breast tissue that the mammogram may not find anything. And then the woman has the chance to say to their doctor, well, what else can I do? And the doctor might recommend an ultrasound or an MRI or something else that's going to help find if the person has cancer. What we still need to work on is getting insurance companies to pay for it, and not just pay for it, but pay for 100% of it, so that there's no copay or something that might keep women who don't have the ability to pay for it from ever finding out what's really going on.
Exactly. And it's so scary because, as you mentioned, you're constantly and you're going and you're thinking that you're doing the right thing, and you're just taken aback when you hear those words. And it takes, us going back and being advocates and having the conversations and making certain that that legislation is picked up. And the fact that, like, Wisconsin is now trying to be ahead of the curve and making certain that that takes place, but we still have such a long way to go. There, are meetings and things that are taking place, and you've recently given, testimony to the fact. But if those things aren't done, then here we are, when you are back in your doctor's office, or you get back home and you hear those, those words from your answering service or something, and you're stunned.
Yeah, I was stunned. I was angry too that no one ever told me this. And it turns out if you have dense breast tissue, which half of the people getting mammograms do, you're also at higher risk for breast cancer. Yeah. I didn't know that. I had no idea, but it turns out that in medicine, they had decided that it wasn't the standard of care to tell the patient that.
That's not readily the conversation that's taking place. And unless you advocate for yourself when you're in your doctor's office and ask the additional questions, you leave unknowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Here I followed all the rules, and I had not just breast cancer, but metastatic breast cancer. By the time they found it, it had already spread to my liver. And when you have metastatic breast cancer, you hear things like, well, the average life expectancy is about 18 to 24 months.
Mm-hmm. So speaking to that point, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I say, so, at the point I first found out, it was already, it seemed way too late for me.
So speaking to that point, now coming out on the other side, what are some things that you can share with our viewers that you did once you were aware? Because now, you said here we are 12 years later, and you've surpassed that benchmark of what, could have.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like a unicorn that won the lottery in the breast cancer world. Really, I shouldn't be here. People very, very rarely live as long as I have without having it come back someplace. Mm-hmm. And I have. I mean, after my first rounds of chemo, surgery, and radiation, it hasn't come back that they can find. That doesn't mean it isn't in my body. And they've told me that it probably is, and it will come back. But so far, treatment's working. I still get chemo every 3 weeks, but it's working.
Well, I'm happy that you're still here and you're able to share your story. And I feel that your voice is so important because you do have that side of the coin to be able to talk about it. And it's important for our legislators to be able to see that this is completely real, and it is something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed immediately. Because if we don't continue to talk about it or advocate about it, it's something that's going to continue to be missed. And that's not what we want to see. So with that in mind, can you talk a little bit about your experience with various advocacy? You said that this kind of led you to volunteer. I know we spoke about our work with WBCC together, the Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition, and there's other organizations that you utilize your voice for as well.
Yeah, now that I've retired, I went on disability and retired 4 years ago. I have extra time, and I decided that for some unknown reason, I've been given this gift of living longer and feeling better than most people with metastatic breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And I need to do something with that. And what I've chosen to do is to work to advocate for other people with breast cancer, because it would be wonderful if no one else ever had to go through this.
Oh my gosh.
So Yeah, I am the vice president of the board of directors of ABCD, which stands for After Breast Cancer Diagnosis. And at ABCD, we provide emotional support people, someone who is trained as a mentor, not just a name out of a hat, but someone who's trained as a mentor with the same diagnosis, the same issues. We match the person as close as possible so that you've got someone to talk to who's been through it before and can tell you what to expect and maybe give you hope. And that's what happened for me. I thought when I made that first phone call to ABCD, I thought I'm going to be dead in a few months. I'd better get my house cleaned out and get my will finalized and get everything done. I'm not going to be here. And ABCD found me a mentor. And she was just like me, same kind of cancer, same kind of job, similar age, same everything. And she was out 5 years.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, yeah, it was like I had this black cloud, this dark cloud kind of raining on me for a couple of months, thinking it's over, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And when she told me that dark cloud split and the sun came out. I mean, I had hope. And so I got involved with ABCD. I'm also on the advocacy committee for Metaviver, which is an organization that gives 100% of its donations to fund research to find a cure for metastatic breast cancer. And the thing that I thought was kind of amazing is that only 2 to 5%, depending on what year and what numbers you use,
Mm-hmm.
of research money for a cure for breast cancer goes into finding a cure for metastatic breast cancer.
Wow.
And that's the one that kills you. So that's why I got involved in Metaviver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also the Wisconsin state captain for More Fight, More Strong, which puts on an event called Light Up for MBC, where we ask buildings across the country to light up in the ribbon colors for metastatic breast cancer, which are pink because it starts in the breast.
Okay.
Pink's the breast cancer color.
Mm-hmm.
Green because that's hope, and blue for faith.
Oh, I love that.
So yeah, so we have buildings light up for that, and we raise millions of dollars every year for research. The money goes from that to Metaviver, where the money then is used for research for metastatic breast cancer. I also do some work for the National Breast Cancer Coalition on lobbying things. And it's probably not lobbying, because what we're really doing is educating legislatures, congressmen, senators, state legislators about the issues with breast cancer. You get a bunch of men on all these committees, mm-hmm. and they don't know a thing about breast cancer, because only 1% of breast cancer patients are men. Exactly. So that's pretty rare. I mean, Gilbert Brown, the Green Bay Packers player, his brother died of breast cancer. And so he has gotten involved in some organizations to help fight against breast cancer. But by and large, it's women.
For sure. It takes a special voice to be able to make certain that we're saying the hard-hitting things that need to be said, and we're addressing the audiences that need to be addressed, and continuing to keep them educated on what we need to do in order to get to a point where we can hopefully eradicate, this dreadful disease.
The individuals who are making the laws, they don't know mm-hmm. what it's like to go through this, and they don't know where there are holes in the system.
Exactly.
For one thing, if you have metastatic breast cancer, now they'll tell you life expectancy is 24 to 36 months, mm-hmm. but that's still 2 to 3 years. And that last year, you may be really, really sick. But if you have to leave your job because of disability, and that's especially true for women who work hourly wage jobs, because you can't keep taking off to see the oncologist and the cardiologist and get your treatments and see the endocrinologist and all the other people that you see. I went for a couple of years before I had a week without a doctor's appointment.
Oh my God.
It's just, I feel like I could give tours of the local hospital because I'm there all the time.
Wow.
And they don't women who have hourly paid jobs, they don't usually get that kind of freedom. I was lucky. I had a salary job, and as long as I got my work done, they didn't really care if I was gone half the time.
Okay.
I could do it from home. I could work on it weekends. I could, if I came in late, I could stay late. That didn't matter. But a lot of women, if they lose their job because they've been diagnosed with breast cancer, they also lose their health insurance.
Exactly. And it's so key for you to speak to that, because those are the variances that people truly don't understand when we're looking at how to better, aid ourselves in this fight.
Yeah. And, once they lose their job, they lose their income. And now they're told, well, you can COBRA on and it's only $2,000 a month. Well, most people can't pay $2,000 a month added to their budget because they're worried about, I don't have any income. I've got to pay the rent or the mortgage or the groceries or the kids need new sneakers or whatever it is.
Exactly.
And so what we're trying to do is get Congress to change the law so that if you are diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, from right then, you can start getting disability payments through Social Security disability, and you will start getting Medicare so that your medical bills can get paid. Those are so key, because if you don't have those things, you don't have health insurance, you don't have any income, you just can't get through it. I was talking to a friend who's a physician, and he was saying something about, all these people who don't have health insurance and they just have to pay for their medical bills themselves. And I said, do you have any idea what my bills are with metastatic breast cancer? And he said, no, what are they? And I said, I have averaged between $750 and a little over $1 million a year.
It's insane.
And he was stunned. And I said, what kind of job am I going to get where I can pay $1 million a year for medical bills?
Exactly.
It's not realistic.
People truly don't think beyond face value what it really takes to be able to continue your care once you hear those words. Yeah. And it's very scary. So
I'm on
go ahead.
I'm on two drugs, and those two drugs together are $520,000 a year for those two drugs. That doesn't count the other medications I'm on, the doctor's appointments, the MRIs, the CTs, the X-rays, the everythings that I go through, the PET scans. It doesn't pay for any of that. $520,000 is just my two drugs.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So as you were talking, you mentioned like just your transition and your, transportation back and forth and things, and having 3 daughters. How did that affect you when you had to have that tough conversation with them as you were going through it? Was there others who were a part of your support system, or were you more just getting to the point where you just internalize it and just kind of try to, scope it out and figure out a path for yourself? Or how did you handle that in relationship with like family and support?
That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, was tell my kids about my diagnosis. It was horrible. I had one kid who was in high school, and she was about to take her ACTs and SATs right at the end of her junior year. And of course, the end of your junior year, that's the cutoff for grades for college admissions. So she was worried about finals, and she was worried about these tests. Then my oldest daughter was 7 years ahead of her, and she was taking her medical boards because she had just finished medical school. And I didn't want to tell either one of them before their tests,
I'm sure,
and potentially impact their future. But I was going to have surgery to put in a port for the chemo drugs. And I knew I was going to have to tell them before that, because they were going to find out that I'd had to have some kind of surgery. And I'm just not smart enough to come up with some story that would be believable, especially with the one just finishing medical school. And so I ended up waiting until my oldest had finished her boards. But I told the youngest right before her ACT and SAT and the end of her senior year. And to top it off, that weekend, she'd had a concussion when she fell on her head after getting hit with a soccer ball in a soccer tournament.
Oh my gosh.
So the younger one wasn't happy with me for telling her right before all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But as I told her, I couldn't wait anymore.
Yeah.
And I said, I did what I could.
Mm-hmm.
But they were so upset. And it was hard. It was really hard. And they didn't know what to think. And the oldest one, of course, is thinking of all the stuff she just studied. And the younger one knew that one of her friends had a mother who'd been going through breast cancer treatment. And it was a long night that we spent talking. And the kids were wonderful. They really were. But for me to have to tell them was really rough.
Oh, I'm sure it was all the what ifs, going through their mind. Yeah. Oh, well, I appreciate you sharing your voice and being able to hopefully give hope to others. Is there anything that you feel would resonate with our audience, as we've had conversations with people from Wisconsin, Illinois, Texas, Arizona, and Georgia, that you could just let them know that possibly there may be an ABCDC in their particular state, or there is another, form of a coalition that may be in their state, or some of the things that helped you as you went through your treatments, that you could just leave them with some form of a glimmer of hope as they come out on the other side, or just newly being diagnosed as well?
Sure. ABCD, the place that provides emotional support, that is a nationwide organization. It's based here in Milwaukee. This is where it got its start. But we actually have we have more people calling from other states than we do from Wisconsin.
Wow. So
if you have breast cancer and you feel like you could use somebody to talk to help you deal with the emotions that you're going through and the decisions, do I get a lumpectomy? Do I get a mastectomy? Do I have an implant put in? Do I go with a deep flap procedure? I mean, there's so many decisions to make. What drugs should I take? There's so much. Call ABCD. We're on the internet. Just look up ABCD breast cancer and you'll find us right away. It's free. We can help. If you're from Wisconsin, you're lucky in that the doctors have to tell you if you have dense breasts and what that means for you. But Wisconsin is only one of 17 states where that's true. So if you are not from Wisconsin, you're already past the point of learning you have breast cancer. But you might be interested in helping others make sure that a bill gets passed like that in your state. You can contact WBCC, Wisconsin Breast Cancer Coalition, or there may very well be someone in your state that's looking at the same thing. Get involved and help. Testifying to the legislature, to me, was very empowering. I felt like I was really doing something for other people. And I was really happy to do it. There's also the National Breast Cancer Coalition that fights for laws that are going to help people both help and get research for breast cancer cures and help get people the medical care that they need, the finances that they need to keep going after a diagnosis. There are so many organizations out there that you could become a part of. And it's a great way to meet other people who are dealing with the same thing. And to me, it just feels good knowing I can help other people. It's too late for me on the issues that I'm fighting. I've already got everything in place for me because I've been dealing with this stuff for almost 12 years. Just going to be a few more weeks and I hit the 12-year mark.
Wow.
But it feels good. And I'm glad that I can do things for other people. So it's easy to get involved. It takes a little time, but it's the kind of thing where you have control over how much time you give it and when you give the time. So think about volunteering.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak with you outside of our policy committee meetings and to hear you share your story. And thank you for just offering some additional added advice that people can look forward to, whether they are from the state of Wisconsin or other states across the country. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm really glad. Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you had me on. Thank you.
I'm so excited. Thank you all for watching another episode of the Pink Table Talk. We will share those websites as a part of the credits so that you're able to look at that as well. It's been a pleasure. Bye now. The Pink Table Talk will be offering our fabulously scented, custom labeled Pink Table Talk candle. Each one hand poured by Cheyenne Candles as a symbol of continuous support to the causes and awareness of breast cancer. The candle light, we'd like to say, represents an eternal flame that will burn in memory to the lives lost and in commemoration to those who continue the fight with cancer and our never-ending crusade to bring awareness. Proceeds from purchasing go to the building of the Pink Table Talk advocacy and outreach, as well as our ability to support other programs and agencies in kind. Thank you for joining us.